I got to tell you, everything I did for the longest time was I had to bite, scratch, claw, pull my way up. And for the most part, I did it alone. Not because I had to, because that's all I ever knew was, oh, my family abandoned me. So if I do anything, I chose a couple people. I've had partnerships fail that cost me millions of dollars. And then I put this crazy idea in my mind that all of them are going to fail. But that's not true. That is absolutely not true. And when you release that and thoughts are magical lies, you get rid of that filter, heal that trauma, then all of a sudden you start attracting the right people. So equally as important as measuring is to do the mindfulness work that comes with this stuff and watch everything in your life soar.
My first question is, what do you do for fun since you're so focused on improving? Like what is one or two things you love to do there?
Lee, first of all, I just thank you for responding. I believe that the universe, everything happens for a reason and the way it's supposed to. And us being on this podcast is no coincidence. I had Evan, our mutual friend, Evan Carmichael on the Heart and Life podcast. I re-listened to my podcast. I listened to it and he recommended your amazing book, Your Most Important Number. I devoured it and then posted it. Your people reached out to me and said, let's chat. And here we are. So the first thing is you have numbers and metrics to measure, but we have to take action. So numbers are important. So make facts over feelings, make decisions based off of numbers and not feelings, but you have to take action. So having said that, what do I do for fun? This is fun, man. When you really have a system in place to run your life and run your business, it provides you freedom and clarity to be creative. And when I'm creating and I'm helping, which is, we're talking business and how I came from basically the gutter and the ghetto to doing, I can do whatever I want, anytime I want. That wasn't by accident. But it wasn't until I implemented a system that we started seeing what I would call tremendous success. And then we're working towards massive success. But everything we're doing, we're giving back. So the Heart and Life brand is for charity. So this isn't so I can buy a jet. And as Ed Milet says, I'm addicted to the expansion of my being. I'm a sponge. I'm a learn it all. I want to learn. So even though you read in the book, we're an EOS company, I read your book and I stole so much from it and I implemented it into, and I've kind of blended the two, and who knows where it's going to end up. So I'm a student of the game and I just want to get better every day. So what do I do for fun? I still have my routines. I work out every day. I meditate. I journal. Probably the same things you do. I'm very excited to see about your musician. I have always wanted to play an instrument, but I have zero talent in that area.
Yeah, I've been playing guitar so long, I don't remember not knowing how to play. And I formed a new band. I've been in lots of bands over the years, but a new band this year. And we just finished recording for an album. So we'll start mastering here in a couple of weeks. And the stuff is really good. It's a power hobby. It's a great way to create emotional energy, positive emotional energy in the world. And, music really is what emotions, sort of sound like. When I read your book, Harder Than Life, my biggest takeaway is when you come from an environment, and I want you to share a little bit about this next, but when you come from an environment that's challenging, unhealthy, toxic, maybe dangerous, most people kind of stay stuck there and own it for their entire life. So before we dig into how you got through that, for our listeners, just describe, kind of what your environment was growing up and what led to this.
I was in fear my entire childhood. I was in fear of death. And that's no exaggeration. I was in fear of physical and mental death. What I mean by that is my parents were my mother and my stepfather were alcoholics, drug addicts. So they were gone all the time. When they did show up, so I was feared being alone. I feared where my next meal was. I feared my parents were abandoning me. They didn't love me. And then when they showed up and were there, I feared their physical presence because they'd beat on me. So there was never any calmness. So you're right. You're on that hamster wheel of life or merry-go-round of life, and it's hard to get off. And most people don't. You're right. And I didn't. I drank the poison and lived that chaotic, toxic lifestyle until I was on that merry-go-round so many times that I just threw up and said I've had enough. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And thank goodness and thank God. This is why I know everything. I am the chosen one. I am blessed. I said, thank God that I didn't hit rock bottom and I made the choice to make change, massive, major change, to change the way I looked at life, the way I addressed life. And I got to tell you, when you first do it, you get a little bit better, and then life throws you this humongous curveball and says, do you really want it? And then the people that did make the change go, oh, I'm good. Half the people fall victim to the second wave of life testing you. And that was a doozy. And that was, for me, a little thing that you might have heard of called the global pandemic. So my business got shut down. I broke up with my longtime fiance. My daughter got taken. I mean, it was challenge after challenge. It was just one of the things would have broken most people. And there was 6 or 7. And I looked up, and I don't know if you're a religious guy, but I looked up at God and I said, you made me and you know how tough I am. And I said, challenge accepted. Let's go. And I devised a plan, which I wrote in the book, Harder Than Life. And the book stops right then and there because I wrote it during the pandemic. We're just started writing book number 2. We're going to call it Happier Than Life, because if you can make it through that, life gets ridiculously good.
Yeah. And I think to some degree, most kind of stay in that place. And, one of the questions I had as I was reading the book, and I've listened to a number of podcasts that you've been on, is you were aware of this stuff, but you chose to stay kind of on the wrong track before you made the big change, literally in the last 4 or 5 years. So why do you think you stayed there so long? Is it the pain wasn't enough, or what kept you there when you kind of knew and you pointed to there is a better way?
There's two answers to that. It's the familiar misery. It's the body and the mind wants to keep you safe, and you can tolerate that. As crazy as that sounded, and you fast forward to adulthood, and I recreated my childhood. I would pick toxic partners who wouldn't love me, who would abandon me and run away. And I would pick toxic business relationships that were built off of fear. And so what keeps you there, what keeps you there is that familiar misery. And then the fear of change. Like, you don't know. At least you know what's going to happen if you stay the course. It's what you've been doing. You get what you've always gotten if you do what you've always done. So that was scary, the unknown. And then when you start doing these changes, you become so different from everybody and you alienate. And I read Brene Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart. And I was reading a part about fitting in versus belonging. And I burst out in tears, and I realized that's why I did what I did, because I wanted to fit in. And here's the problem. I don't belong where I fit in. I belong with you and with Evan and with the influence, the top personal development people in the country. We're a top 15 podcast. This is where I belong, leading out front. And it's scary because once you get out and you get out over your skis, somebody can push you over. And that scares most people. But what I learned is I used up all my fear in childhood. I don't have it anymore. I don't get nervous about, oh my God, if I say something wrong, Lee isn't going to like me. Oh my God, if I criticize this. You want to talk politics? We talk politics. You want to talk health? We want to talk pronouns. I don't care. This is for charity, and what's meant for me will be with me. I am no longer ever trying to fit in. What's for me will find me. So it's just basically why people don't make changes, and it's just so much easier to keep doing what you're always doing.
Yeah, my interpretation are words here, but there's such a big theme around so-called friends for the wrong reasons and wanting to fit in all the stuff that you're talking about and then working out of that. So I think that was, I mean, again, a very, very valuable lesson.
I called those drinking buddies and moving friends. So the drinking buddies were the who you'd hear people that are unhealed. I die for my friends. Well, I don't want you to die for me, Lee. I want you to flourish, and I want to help you flourish. That's the type of friends I want to be around. Not misery loves company and crabs in a bucket holding me down. I want to sit down with you over a cigar at a campfire or in the desert in Arizona and talk about the next book. How can we take this and apply it to even new business types? Because we're in a new world. Everybody that doesn't like the people that came, the younger generation, and oh my God, they're lazy. No, and they want to work from home. No. We just need to communicate with them a lot better than we've ever communicated before. So that's the kind of conversation I want to have. I don't want to sit around a campfire drinking drinks and talking about people in bad ways. I want to talk about big ideas. So I am unapologetic about who has access to me.
I love that. And I don't think people have changed at all in the last 5,000 years from a human nature standpoint. I think what, the best work you and I can do is create better environments, healthier environments from which they create value. And then you get a whole different person. Some people will say kids today are just completely different. Well, the environment's different, so it's causing them to act different. And I think the healthier companies, we create better environments, and they love winning and accomplishing challenging things. Does that resonate with you? That's what I think.
I would add to that, and I love that. You're creating safe spaces for everybody, but I add to it, I create the safe space, but I lead with safety and love, but vulnerability. I lead with a lot of vulnerability. We have conversations at my IT company, National Technology Management, that people think, well, I've never had this kind of conversation. A mindfulness, a childhood trauma. Let's unpack why that triggered you. We talk about triggers. We talk about why certain responses elicit things, and then we work through it. And you don't do it to try to correct the behavior. We do it so we can put them in an environment so that behavior is their strength. So it's a different kind of conversation. In the past, when I grew up, that would be weak. Talking about your feelings and being vulnerable, Lee, you just grin and bear it and go through it. So tough, be harder than life. And that's how I came up with the name Harder Than Life, because really being harder than life is just doing quote unquote the hard things that really aren't so hard. We just label them hard.
Yeah. And I think, Kelly, there's a nuance here, because being vulnerable and sharing with the intent of creating more value and being open so we can all do that together, I think is wildly healthy. But there are some that make it sort of their identity. It's kind of a victim and sharing all this stuff, and they stay stuck. So there's a way to share that's wildly productive, and there's a way to share that isn't. So how do you think about, as a leader, making sure those aren't going down the wrong road sometimes? Because I see that, especially today, culturally in the United States, being a victim is almost a badge of honor, and you get brownie points.
Well, it's exactly what we just talked about before. They're trying to create an outcome that they're very familiar with. And we just unpack why they're doing that. What is it that that being a victim allows you to feel? What is the benefit? They always say, you assume positive intent, and the positive intent, that person's trying to survive, and their survival has being a victim. My survival was always being the toughest SOB you've ever seen. That's why I'm a physically big guy, because I didn't want to get beat. So I built this huge armor, but it worked out for me, because now I walk into a room, Lee, you're going to walk up to me and go, dude, you're a tree trunk. And it's a conversation starter. So that's a classic example of what you think isn't working out for you actually is. You just have to surrender and allow it. We're too busy with that victimhood, and nothing can penetrate it. Just let that down and allow good things will happen. I guarantee it. You talk about it in your book, and what you're seeing now is because we have more access to mindfulness people and coaches and therapy, and you're seeing people have better dialogue. And it's not about, it is your most important number, but what's underneath that? I'll give you a couple of numbers that are important. How many meditation days? How many workout days? How many, how are you showing up? What are you doing to show up? How many hours are you sleeping? Those are conversations that we have at National Technology Management every day. Hey, I don't like seeing people get out of shape because I don't want anybody to have heart attack and die. So we talk about, what are you doing? Are you taking some mental health time during the day? We're in a tough business. Today is all of Microsoft was down for several hours last night. There's airplanes can't go. There's business that can't happen. We just came off of all the car dealerships. So we're in that business. We protect companies. Luckily, since we put in EOS and now we're using most important number, we are very proactive and preventative. None of these issues have affected us. We have built a foolproof business, and we are right on the precipice of absolutely exploding. And I'm excited. But if you didn't have a plan, fail to plan to fail. Well, we have a plan. And now when I tell you things happen for me, I had to listen to my podcast twice with Evan to catch your book. And then here we are. And now I got a new friend, and I can recommend people to your system because I believe in it.
I appreciate that. And I saw your video post. Thank you so much for doing that around my book. And I guess, obviously joking here, but in a way, you've made it as a large global company when you make one little software change and you take the world down. So Microsoft really.
And by the way, I like to point out something. I don't know. Is this going to be on video as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if you can see, all the pages I have pinned back are all the notes that I have. Because when I read, you ask me what I do for fun. I like to read. I read a book. I don't listen. And when I pin back the page, I then make a note for our podcast together. and then it also makes me research it a little bit and think about it and stop. That's why it takes me a little bit longer to read books that are fascinating.
Yeah. When I narrated that book, and I appreciate that you narrated yours, because I think authors should always narrate their own book, the emotions there and all of it. I don't know why so many don't do that. But I went one step further and recorded interviews with a publisher after each chapter, just for more depth and insight and wisdom. And I think that could be really cool for your next book if you could add something like that.
Yeah, I've noticed more and more of that. My publisher, my last book, did David Goggins' books. And I happened to listen to Goggins' book, or I read Goggins' books, and he said, hey, go here and listen to the audio version of this. There's a bonus interview. And then if you ever read the book Conversations with God, have you ever read that?
A long time. Yeah.
So that book was so good that I downloaded it immediately and listened to it. And then there was a bunch of interviews at the end of it that were fascinating. So when I recorded mine, there was no options for that. But the next one, I'm totally going to do. So thank you for that idea. And if you could hear, that took me, recording that was so hard. And when I mean hard, because you hear my voice crackle. It isn't until we're 4 years later now that I've healed enough that it doesn't bother me. There was some, really tough big T traumas that I carried with me. And even to today, I'm doing a work with a massive business coach who's a dear friend of mine on next week, because we still feel there's one little block and we can't figure it out. But I want to ask you a question because I wrote it down here. What's the name of your band? You didn't plug it. What's the name of your band and what's the genre?
Yeah, it's rock and roll. We have our own sound. We have 10 songs. I love it because we have 10 best songs on this album. They're all so good. But we call the band Landed, and we won't release this stuff for probably another 8 weeks. And when that happens, the website will go up. All the music will be available everywhere you can find music. So excited about that. In the 80s, in the first half of the 80s, I played over 1,000 nights on stages and concerts, and it's how I made most of my money back then. I played my whole life. I just love it. It's an incredible power hobby.
What does Landed and I'm sorry, I know it's your podcast, and I'll ask you all these questions on mine. But tell me what
Yeah.
landed means to you guys.
Just here's four folks with huge backgrounds in all kinds of different areas, and music is a common part that comes in there. And we're discussing, hey, what's the name of the band? What should it be? And I was the one that actually threw it out after about an hour of conversation. We've all landed here, and we're able to create this incredible emotional energy. The singer and I, we write songs so fast, and they're all good. I've never felt that chemistry with anybody before. It's incredible. So yeah, we landed here. We're creating huge emotional energy value, and then the spiritual value creation for me is about connectedness and just what we can do together. And this very short journey so far, I know we can do anything here musically. So that's short version of how we got to the name.
I can't wait to get you on the podcast. I got so many questions for you. That not even the book. Now I got a whole. So we'll try to time that where we can get you, so we could talk about the album release. That'll be fun. I like it. I like what you're doing. I think it's awesome. It's what we need in this country right now. We need to unite. No matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, we need to look at what we agree on and work from there, not what we disagree on. Here's what we all agree on. We all love America. We all want to live a peaceful, prosperous life. Most people are good. Let's start there and work out and figure out. And you'll see we actually agree on way more than we disagree on. So when you tell me landed and you put out amazing books like this, it's only to help. And you're one of the good people. You're one of the good ones. So thank you for being you.
And I agree with that. When we look at I talked about it earlier, we have an environment that you and I create in our companies from which everybody creates value with whatever, we think will cause the best value to be created. So we do that. I look at the country the same. Our elected officials, in my view, their job is to create better conditions for the citizenry to work, live, learn, and play at a lowering relative cost over time. That's their job. But the entire culture of politics is about rigging the game in some way to, get power, grow power, take care of their friends, crony capitalism, all of it. And creating value in the world is my lens. So I look through everything. How is it going to create material, emotional, and connectedness or spiritual value objectively? And for me, practicing virtue and creating value in the world is doing that, and at the same time pushing back on things that are taking value out of the world or those that are rigging the game. So I think it's a real challenge over there, and I love that you're doing this because I agree with you. 98% of the citizenry in the United States, and I'm on my 8th company. I've started from scratch, and we were in 60 countries with my aerospace company. It was global. It was an incredible journey. Same everywhere. People want to be healthy, happy, trade their best efforts to support their family. There are universal things everywhere, and I think that's 98% of people. Why are we letting the 2% to mess everybody's mindset up? And when I read things around this person's bad or that person's good, all the divisive stuff going on, my first thought is I don't really believe any of it. How do I know it's not a bot? How do I know it's not a bunch of paid people putting it out there to nudge something in a certain direction? So I wish we would all think more critically and have a value creation filter to say, does it make sense? Does it pass the test? So I'm working on that intensely. Like I can tell that you are. I love that. Thank you.
So I did these things. I was watching the Republican National Convention and I flipped between CNN and Fox. And I want to be informed. I want to see everything because if you take in the same content, you're going to believe what you believe to be true. But if you don't see any other sides, I always look for both sides. There was a time where milk was good for you, then it was bad for you. There's a time where sun was good for you, fun was bad for you. There's a time where exercise is good for you, bad for you. There was a time where a glass of wine a day was told that was good for you. So we've never had access to so much information. And I will tell you, you said something very, very important, and it's creating value. If you don't create value in this world, your job can be automated. And that's the fact of what's going on with AI. So I really hope these automakers, these politicians are paying attention, because if they continue to keep throwing shade at each other, that's where a lot of this negativity is coming from. I mean, the moment, and I'm not trying to make this a political talk, but I just have a problem that the moment either side comes out with anything, the other side has to knock them. You know, JD Vance comes out and they immediately knock him. A policy comes out from Biden's trips, they immediately knock him. This is human. You know, we're having a human experience. Where is the compassion? So, but I want to go back to you have to create value. One of our, I'm going to use core values. What did you call them in the book? You called them something different. I have it written in my notes.
I call them cultural alignment tools. So it could be a mission, a vision, set of behaviors, leadership traits, quality policy, safety policy. But they're really things that we nudge all of the team members to think, act, make decisions in a way that causes more value to be created. And I think that's our job as leaders to constantly do that. So that's why I call them alignment tools. It's just sort of a general category, and it's nuanced and different for every organization.
So we can do those personally as well. So this is what people don't realize. Your most important number can be personal, and these alignment tools are very personal. What outcome are you trying to achieve? And I can schedule you a number and a standard that'll get you the value in your life that you're trying to achieve. That's what I kept taking away from this book, how much this can be for personal. Our cultural alignment tools at National Technology Management are literally my personal values. I govern my life by them. Family, since I had such a terrible family, is important to me. So I treat my staff and my customers as family, as you read in the book. It's cliche, but I just on a job interview and we were talking about something and the guy goes, "Wow." He goes, "You really understand family." And I was like, well, it's just not a word on my wall.
I can tell you're living it. And I wrote them all down getting ready for the discussion, but the self-awareness, honesty and integrity, communication, family, loyalty, growth, health, tenacity, results, and legacy. You're living and breathing. I mean, that's part when I said in the setup for this conversation today, you're fully on the right track. Long ways away from as much value as you can create, because there's no end to that. But you're intensely applying this stuff. And in most companies, their alignment tools, usually a set of values, is just wallpaper that isn't being lived.
Let me share a crazy story with you that I just learned this week. So when you reach different levels, you encounter different devils. And what I realized in the last 2 weeks, that there was still a part of my childhood that I thought I had healed that was still sitting with me. And he was whatever it was way down in my subconscious, and it was making decisions. So as soon as I became self-aware of that, I just stopped doing what I was doing and I released it. And it felt like I had lost 200 pounds off my chest. So this is always a discovery. Now I'm going to go to the next level and I'm going to meet different issues. So that's where I get so excited and a sponge to learn it all. I get to meet people like you, and now we're friends, and I'm going to be like, "Hey, Lee, what does this mean again?" And you're going to be like, "Kelly, you read into this stuff so deep." I really am a student of the game and I love it. And I'm not a young guy, but it's fascinating. What we don't realize is this is not a sprint. We're all going to die. It's memento mori. We're all going to die. Why not make the best of every single day? And there's you're not going to all of a sudden feel a feeling when you're on your deathbed, or when you get the $10 million, or you get the $100 million, or you get the girlfriend, you need to feel that every day. And that's the life I've cultivated. And that's where your most important number should come into play with your alignment tool, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. Yeah. My personal most important number is internal fulfillment. Can't be happy all the time. You go up and down. We struggle. We do all of that, but that continues to climb because I accomplish more things, having a bigger impact. I don't believe there's such a thing as selflessness or altruism, because we all, in my opinion, do what's in our best self-interest for this life or the next. And selfishly, I want to feel good. I want to be more fulfilled, right? And so that just keeps climbing for me. And even in my businesses, I take the biggest one that I sold in 2016. That we were in 60 countries, 2,000 customers, amazing business. And we had material value to be created, which was profit and it was EBITDA, and it really represented the value of the business and how people looked at paying for it. But the emotional energy value was the X factor for the leaders, and intentionally worked on that in so many different ways. And the spiritual value creation of the business was 100% how connected team members were to each other and all the communities and stakeholders that we touched. We intentionally did all of that stuff. When I sold it, I can't say the actual number per the agreement, but this was a very profitable, approximately $100 million business that got a 21.6x multiple of EBITDA at a time where 8x would have been really strong. And because we did all of that stuff, and equally good, actually for me, it may be a better alternative was not selling the business. I eventually agreed to sell it. They approached us because I want to take holistic value creation to the world through lots of organizations, not just the few that I had. But I guess just to kind of add to your point, creating value, money is important. The other things are wildly important too. And the emotional energy to me supercharges everything.
Are you seeing the companies that implement your most important number? So I'm in the IT business. We're getting 10, 12x multiples to sell. Everybody in my space right now is selling but me. And literally I get a call a day. And since we're running a system such as yours, I don't have issues. So why would I sell? There's no reason, even if I got a 23 multiple like you, there's just no reason. I love what I'm doing. I enjoy my customers. I enjoy my family, my NTM family. So are you seeing other people like that, or is most people doing it to exit?
Well, I'm like you. I love operating. I love running businesses, and I love engaging with people that love running businesses and creating real value and building on it. And there's a big difference between those that like operating and creating value, and that's their world, and those that just want to do it to exit and make money. There's a big difference. The ones that just want to exit, 99+% of the time don't create nearly as much value as those that are operators going in. And then the bigger part of your question is when you do all the right things, management systems, everything in place. That's why we got such a high multiple, because we did all this stuff. So what I'm finding is that companies that implement the MIND methodology out of your most important number, my book, they get higher multiples. I run CEO groups. I call it Execute Masterminds. And all of those CEOs in the group, I limit it to 8 max. We know so much about each other's business. We're driving holistic value creation. And last year, for my 3 full groups, and I have certified chairs, the lowest increase in value was 38% of the 24 members in my groups. And the highest was 1,100% growth in the value of their business. And it's just normal. It's just normal. I call it full contact value creation. Like we go for it. And it's all about that and cultivating a CEO's ability to create value faster. And there's no end to it. So we have all this practical CEO wisdom, what works and doesn't work. We just dig in like a full day meeting every month. But between the meetings, we're applying this stuff and learning and coming back. We just keep stacking this really valuable practical wisdom. So long answer to your question. But yeah, when you do this, how could you not get a better result focusing on holistic value creation and not just making it a buzzword?
So Lee, you're an amazing man and you're tremendously humble. So I'm going to plug it again. Guys, go out and read the book. Everything he just said, 1,100% increase, 1,100%. Your most important number, and then implement it for your personal life too. I love when smart people give back, and on our VTO for EOS, I put it in there. What I love seeing is people growing. I love to see, even if they have to leave us, if we built up this assassin that leaves, we've done well. And I just love that. That's why I do this. That's what keeps me going every day. Because I got to tell you, everything I did for the longest time was I had to bite, scratch, claw, and pull my way up. And for the most part, I did it alone. And not because I had to, because that's all I ever knew was, oh, my family abandoned me. So if I do anything, I chose a couple people. I've had partnerships fail that cost me millions of dollars. And then I put this crazy idea in my mind that all of them are going to fail, but that's not true. That is absolutely not true. And when you release that and thoughts are magical lies, if you get rid of that filter, heal that trauma, then all of a sudden you start attracting the right people. So equally as important as measuring is to do the mindfulness work that comes with this stuff and watch everything in your life soar. I'm sorry, I keep stealing your things. I know you have questions.
This is, this is about how you create value in the world, and you and I are pretty darn aligned. It's incredible, and I think that the most important part, for sure, of my legacy, and I think it's probably the same for you, is how we develop others to create value in the world. So my leaders that go on to run other companies, buy companies, be senior leaders, et cetera. That's my legacy. Families, middle low income families that create a huge amount of emotional and spiritual value that I was able to impact. That's my legacy. I mean, all of this stuff is your legacy as well. So I think that's where it's at. And backing up a little bit, childhood trauma. So not making that your identity and kind of going through that. And I think about struggle. There's healthy, normal struggle that a lot of people call trauma. It's not for kids. And then there's unhealthy struggle, which, can be an addiction. It could be an illness. It could be something way worse, unhealthy trauma, big time. And then there's intentionally designed struggle to develop a capability or a trait or characteristic. But in that unhealthy struggle bucket that gets into the realm of trauma, what's the best way to flip that in your view to where it happened, would have been better if it didn't, but it did? How do you get through it and leverage it to create value?
Well, I begin with the end in mind. It's how I always did everything. What am I trying to accomplish, and work it backwards and see what's working for you and what's not. And then I developed this unshakable confidence by just keeping the word to myself. If I said I was going to do something, I did it. And that created this ridiculous confidence that I should have never had because I wasn't infused with love and confidence. As a matter of fact, my stepfather, I never could do anything right. And he told me all the time, but it wasn't serving me. And when I said I wanted to be rich and famous, would the victim mentality get me to being rich and famous? The answer is no. So I used it as motivation. And I try to teach people that. And if you give me hardship, I'm going to turn it into fuel. Like I just told you the thing about when the pandemic hit, we lost our biggest customer. My daughter got taken away from me. My fiance, we broke up. It was like, and I looked up at God and said, bring it. That's when I do my best work. But I'm learning that I gotta release that because I don't need chaos and drama to thrive. And that's where I'm at right now. That's the level that I'm ascending to now as I'm realizing, oh, I can create a safe place for myself and thrive in that. So this is fun, man. I'm seeing myself react to situations so much more appropriate and better. I had an issue with a salesperson that just had a victim mentality and just basically, blamed it all on me. And I stood up and I said, I gotta take a break for a second because I gotta process this. And, normally I would have just stood up and said, you're fired, but I didn't. And I tried to work through that and tried to come to a compromise. And it's just, it's fun, Lee. It's fun. Life is fun, man. I'm having a blast. And at the end of the day too, is I built a company that I want to buy, that I want to use. I'm an end user. If you have a technical difficulty, you don't want to hear all the bits and bytes and just fix it. And that's what we do. And we're very proactive so that nobody gets ransomware. If you look, our logo was a shield. It has been that way for years, way before people were worried about cybersecurity. I saw this happening and I knew this day was going to come. And so we built a simple and easy product that we drop on. It is super affordable. We charge people by the user and we take care of everything. You set it and forget it and go about your life. You don't have to be an IT expert. You don't have to freaking worry about things. And we got several different layers of cybersecurity that still allow you to do your business with keeping you protected. We're not like the TSA that, a shoe bomb's going to explode and now you got to take your shoes off. We are very proactive and we thwart these 0-day threats and we just make it easy to do business. And that's what I do. I'm an end user and I just want the computers to work. And that's what we do. Keep it simple.
Oh, and that's what I want. I want it to work. I want the uptime to be 99.99999%, preferably 100%, and I want everything safe. I don't want to lose
it. People are going to be people, though, Lee. They're going to call and they're going to be mad because you're, of course, the person that's keeping them from doing their work because they waited to the last minute. And so we do a lot of really cool things where we have recordings so we can look and see what they were doing without them having to explain to us that they clicked the link that they shouldn't have. And we're not trying. I always say, losers assign blame, winners fix problems. And who cares if you click the link? Who cares if you went on a porn site? It doesn't matter. But what you did helps us diagnose it and fix it faster. It's like if you could go back and watch a video of an accident, you could figure out how to fix whatever was broke, whatever you guys broke at the time quicker. So we diagnose the problems really quicker, and it's not Big Brother. We just do it to just get to the problem fast. Everything we do fast. So it's creating value. And one of our, cultural alignment tools is delivering results. Because if you're not delivering results in this world, what are you doing? We can talk all we want. We can be busy jogging in place, but we're not moving anywhere. So let's make a true impact. And for me, it's very passionate. If you can't tell, I am tired of these bad actors and I am tired of people paying ransomware. I don't like bad people profiting off of good people. I take this very personal, and it's personal for all my staff. You plug in the National Technology Management, you are covered. You will not get an excuse. And to this day, we have not paid a ransom and will not pay a ransom.
What a great track record. That's incredible. Really, really curious. What are your hacks and advice for diminishing negative self-talk? Because you have to have gone through just a huge evolution there.
Lee, I wish I could say I have gone through. I still do. I catch myself every day. I do say, if I said out loud, if I said to you some of the things I say to myself, you wouldn't be my friend. I'm very hard on myself. And I catch myself lately as I've really metamorphosized into this harder than life guru, this person that everybody looks up to. With great power comes great expectations. So I drink my Kool-Aid. So there are times I'll be like, boy, that was really stupid. And then I'll be self-aware to realize that was something my stepfather used to say to me and it serves no purpose. And I'll be like, that was a stupid thing. I'm not stupid. I did something dumb. And it's human. What can we learn from it and how can we change it? And then the daily habits and rituals, I just recorded a reel about this. The 5 personal and professional habits and rituals I do to cultivate the life. So we call them, alignment tools. I do these alignment tools every single day. And it just become a habit. It's become a different kind of crutch than, where most people will go to drugs or alcohol or swiping or scrolling. I turn to a book. I turn to the gym. I turn to meditation. I turn to calling people like you who can help me through whatever the challenge is that I'm going through. I was on the phone with one of the top 5 business coaches in the country that I had interviewed on my podcast. I have access to people. So I turn to those instead of sitting back trying to do it alone, and which is a very hard thing to do, by the way. I've done everything up to this point alone. But man, do I got a freaking team of amazingly brilliant people who are much more smarter than me who want to see me win. And so you realize that you're not alone. And it sounds counterintuitive, but I surrender and just allow. And whenever I do that, I may just grab my journal and I have one around me where you see me jotting things down. I jot those down and I talk to myself and I'm kind to myself and I'm loving to myself. So another habit I do is, what was her name? Mel Robbins. She has the high five habit. So I high five myself in a mirror. It sounds silly, but I say, you're doing the best you can. And the best I can, as long as I gave, if I had 80% that day and I gave all 80%, that's 100% in my book. Give myself the grace that I give everybody else. I've never done that before. And, so there were times that I had identified with being a party animal, being a wild child, it was a badge of honor. I'll give you a story. It used to be when you partied with me and you went out with me and we went to dinner, I'd party you so hard, you'd end up passing out. And I called that Siegeling you. It was a verb. And I was like, yeah. And I'd take a picture of you and I'd put it on social media. Well, now when you come hang out with me, we're going to plow through any limiting belief. You're going to believe you can walk on water and we're going to go crush it together. And that's the new Siegeling.
Yeah, I love that. So, diminishing negative self-talk, being aware of it and reducing it over time. But I love also the community piece of it, where you've got folks that can, help you through these things. And I think a lot of our listeners don't intentionally have that system of folks around them that can really
Wait a minute, we do. Well, everybody does, but they think it's weak to call Lee. I'm having a bad day. There's something in spiral. What are you going to do? You're going to say, hey, talk to me. I'm here for you, man. What do you need me to do? Listen? Do you need advice? Do you want me to listen? Or do you what friend do you need of me right now? And that's what we need to do and realize it's not a weakness. It's a strength to be able to call your friend and say, I'm battling it. I'm in we've seen this meme everywhere. I would rather take a call at 2 a.m. than hear that you died because you just kept holding everything in and didn't realize that there were people that care. Because I got a newsflash. You matter. Everybody listening to this podcast matters. You're here for a reason. There are plenty of options. And if you don't think you have plenty of options, DM me, Kelly.Siegel.71, and I will gladly help you and talk to you. And I've taken many of them, which also too, guys, if anybody DMs me, Lee Benson, I will send you an electronic copy of the Harder Than Life book so you can read about how I came from nothing to because the second book's coming out. So I'll message you or I'll send you an electronic copy. DM me, Lee, or no, let's do this one. Most important number, MIN. And I'll send you the electronic copy of Harder Than Life and enjoy.
Incredible. Thank you. Yeah, my personal hack there is when the negative voices come up, and I think they come up for everybody. I just ask the question: does that have anything based in reality with what's going on? And if the answer is no, which is pretty much most, if not all, of the time, then I ignore it and I keep focusing on the value that I'm trying to create over there. So that's my hack to share it.
We basically do the same thing. I name it and just say, it's okay. Let that go. It's okay. And you asked too, you said your most important number for you personally, what it was. And mine is the number 7, because that's the number of hours I need to get to function. And then everything comes from that. It allows me to do everything. So last night I got 4. I'm a freaking zombie today. So 7 is my most important personal number. And it changes. That's what, by the way, after reading this book, your most important number it changes. It should change. So, because once it gets better, then something else becomes the most important number. The whole time I'm reading the book, by the way, I'm like, what is it? What is it? I'm like, wait a minute, it keeps changing. Brilliant book, my friend.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. I believe, and as I cultivate my consciousness or just figuring more stuff out over time, I'm intentionally working on cultivating physical, emotional, and mental. And you talk about, we don't have time to go on all the frameworks here, but you talk about all three of those things. You have intentional ways of going after that. What got you to develop the frameworks around improving physically, emotionally, mentally, and also business and leadership? I mean, it's really cool that you went down that road, but what got you started on that?
Wow. That's a deep question. Survival. If you want to get, yeah, I've never said it, but survival. It was a survive. And so to break it down into a very barbaric method. So I wanted to make money and be successful so I could eat. Lee, when I tell you there was no food in my house growing up, I never knew where my next meal. The only meal I knew I would get was Monday through Friday, my free lunch at school. So it became, I need to be successful in a financial set so I could predict when I'd eat. And then that spiraled into, I got to be the best. I want to win. I want to win at all costs. And then it just became every single thing I did, I would become a student of it. And I would read the books, Zig Ziglar's Selling and Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And my first ever personal development book was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I just became a student in the game, and I developed this personal development, self-improvement way before it was a thing. And so when I started studying this, I'm like, oh my God, this is literally what I do. And then somebody called it, put a label on it and called it theirs. And I'm like, I've been doing that for years. So the long answer to a short question was survival. And it got me here, but it's not going to get me there. So I realize now that I've made it. I'm no longer fighting for survival, and I have to become that so I can become the next version of myself and take my NTM team and everybody that's the Harder Than Life family to the next level with me. So I educate, inspire, motivate, and do all of those things on a daily basis. And you will never, ever find me not drinking my own Kool-Aid. I do see people in our space that say one thing and do another. You'll never find that with me. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. That's just not who I am. I had a discussion with a coach yesterday about people buying followers and people buying likes. And it's just a no for me. We're going through a transition right now where I didn't like our last social media company because something wasn't work. It didn't seem like it was legit. I don't know that to be true. I'm not making any things, but we're changing because I want to know the numbers are legit because I want to help people. It isn't a popularity show. This is to help people. I'm a member of a board. We have 3 a board member on a charity that I want to give back to. And then there's 2 other charities we're very, very, very passionate about, and we're going to give back. And that's where the book ended with the legacy. It isn't about it's about what impact you made, not how much money you made. You can't take that stuff with you.
Well, you and I are still on the front lines creating value, which makes what we talk about resonate more because it's authentic, it's genuine, it keeps improving over time. Way too many experts out there are so far removed from doing the thing they talk about, they couldn't do it to save themselves if they had to. So I agree with you 100%. We're really starting to run out of time. I wish we had a lot more time. Kelly, if you could even find one, what's the one biggest takeaway from our discussion here today?
What you measure gets better, and work works. And everything works if you work it. And guys, I am a poor abused child that has made it. And I've only just begun. So anything is possible. You just have to freaking work at it. And I will tell you one thing. We talked about kids and social media. This is a proof of social media working really well. I have a new lifelong friend in you, and you have a new lifelong friend in me from a post and a message. And I thank you for doing good things. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, We have this big Alex Hormozy Grand Slam offer where we offer no cost cyber scans for companies, because I just do this stuff so people realize you have options, that you're not being spun and you're not being sold and there's no other agenda. You just keep giving in the world and goodness comes back to you. So if anybody's listening that has a cybersecurity question, this is what I'm hearing and it's irritating me, is there are some of my friendly competitors that are out there gouging people because you need cybersecurity, your price is triple. That is absolutely not true. So if anybody wants a second look, you message me on, and it's very easy. You can Google me. I'm everywhere. You can email me and I will look at it. I'm the owner, not the sales team. I'm not going to throw you over to a sales team. I will go through it with you and dissect what you really need to be protected. And there's a basic principles that you can do. So I can give that over to everybody. And I just a lover of life, and I appreciate the platform, I appreciate the time, but that was a lot. And I like to leave also too these with we didn't talk about this, but this is important. You need to lead with love, and I know it sounds weird, but love yourself and then emanate love, and good things happen. That's the biggest thing. We did not talk about that, but I had to love myself enough to put standards and boundaries and measure everything and look inside to realize I was the problem. And I got a news flash for you. If you're not achieving your goals, you're the problem, but you're also the solution. And that's what makes this life so great. And that's what makes you harder than life when you overcome that.
Love it. Love it. And I agree with that approach. If our listeners want to learn more about you, where can they go, Kelly?
We live on Instagram pretty much. It's Kelly, KELLY.Siegel. It's SIEGEL.71 on Instagram. We also have harderthanlife.com. And if you want to see something about the IT company, it's trustntm.com. We didn't even get into trust. I mean, you're right. We could go for hours. So what does all the vulnerability and communication and love, both self-love and emanating love do? Builds trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your ability, trust in your team. I've never met you, but I trust you because we talk about vulnerabilities.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being here today. My biggest takeaway is you're just such a shining example of going from one track that isn't healthy to a really healthy track and knocking it out of the park, which means anybody can do it if they change their mindset. So thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. And this has been the Show Your Value podcast. If you got value out of today's episode, please leave a review, like, and follow. And until the next episode, go out in the world and show your value.